Heard. All right, just a few things before we jump into living and dining on campus. One thing that we would ask is to please mute your device. We ask you to do that so that we reduce any background noise so that our presenters can share all of their helpful information tonight. If you do have any questions, please just throw your questions in the chat. I will be keeping an eye on that and I will jump in and ask our presenters any questions that you might have. And if, or you can certainly unmute yourself and we'll try our best to get your questions answered. We do try and keep our questions to the topic tonight, but you are certainly always welcome to reach out to me. I am your liaison as parents. So you can shoot me an email at aroyal@culver.edu and I will do my best to get you steered to the right answer. Like I did mention, a recording of tonight's session will be shared on the Parents and Families page of the Culver website. We should have this posted by next week sometime. We are closed on July 4th and July 7th. And with it being the holiday, sometimes people take some days off. So be patient with us. It might take us a little bit longer to get this posted on that page than usual, but I will try my best. You never know. We might even have it up by tomorrow. I did want to plug the new Parents and Families Facebook page. So if you're not following us, we ask that you do follow us on Facebook. And if you're an Instagrammer, which I'm trying my best to be now, you can follow us on Instagram at CSC_parents. I did send out the first parents newsletter of the 2025-2026 school year last night. So hopefully you did get that. And you will get those on the first of every month. So hopefully you got that. It was a long one. The first one's usually the longest. They're not usually that long. And again, if you do need anything, please let me know. If you didn't get that parent newsletter, you can certainly shoot me an email and I will get you added to that mailing list and get that newsletter sent out to you. One more thing that I absolutely want to plug is our Catalyst program. We have an early start program for students who are not fall athletes. If your student would like to get a jump start on their college education, they actually move in 2 weeks early. They move in on August the 8th. They actually knock out their Gen Ed science class and get to dip their toes in the water of being a college student, get to make new friends. Like I said, just kind of ease their minds of being a college student before everyone else gets here. If they're interested in that, I do have some more information about that. If you just go to the Culver website, go to culver.edu/catalyst, you can find out more information about that. All righty. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and we are going to jump into living and dining on campus. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our residency requirements. So we do require that our students live on campus. We do have a 4-year residency requirement for our students. Why? All of the research shows that students who do live on campus are more successful than those who do not. Being here in a community when you're surrounded by those that are, going through the same things as you, does tend to foster that successful environment for students. Now, there are some exceptions to that. And so I do have listed there those exceptions. If the student is married or has legal dependents, if they are living with their parents or legal guardians, if they do turn 21 years of age by September of that academic year. However, if they do opt out of our residency requirement, if they're 21 and they're not going to be living with their parental or legal guardians, one thing I always tell them to do is always speak to financial aid first, because that may exclude you from our institutional financial aid. And when I'm speaking about our institutional financial aid, that could be our talent scholarships as well. And so, because that does reduce your cost of attendance. So I always encourage students to check with financial aid first and see how that will impact your financial aid package. Lastly, if if any of the students are going to be blessing Reman College of Nursing students, juniors and seniors are eligible to live over in Quincy since all of their classes are over in Quincy. So those are our residency requirements. And so if you have any questions about that, certainly let me know. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to our Dean of Student Life, Brian Walker, who can talk to you about how we assign rooms.
Good evening. As Angie said, I'm Brian Walker, Dean of Student Life. I don't actually have Fund Police on my business card, but that might be what some current students refer to me as, but I guess that's a topic for a different night. I'm going to jump right into room assignments. And when we talk about room assignments, we're really focusing on the new software that we've fully integrated for this upcoming year. The software, the platform that we're utilizing is called eRes Life. For those of you whose children have already been housed, they've gone through this process. We still have a handful of freshmen that haven't found housing yet, and that's quite all right. We still have plenty of time to find some beds in one of our several resident hall facilities. So as far as freshmen are concerned, we have two main resident halls. We have Sperry and we have Wood Hall. That's typically where our freshmen get housed. When students are returning students, we get that process started back in the spring, really, March into April. As you're probably aware at this point, the freshmen have been housing themselves since about May when that first opened. If you haven't been on eRes Life yet and if it seems really foreign, it's real simple. All you need to do is have your son or daughter go to My Culver, click on the Campus Life tab. There will be a drop down for Residence Life, and then there's a tab to take them right to that software where they can start with their application, their profile, and then start finding roommates. So one of the things that we get asked a lot of questions about is single rooms. Like, can I stay in a single room? Maybe a little shy, more introverted, and not really, up for meeting a bunch of new people all at once. And so, if your son or daughter signs up for a room and there's an open bed, we do a thing called room consolidation, and that usually takes place September once we've been here for a couple of weeks. And we really try to consolidate the individuals who are living in a room by themselves and try to help get them roommates and surrounded by a couple more people to make some more connections. When room consolidation begins, students will have the opportunity to stay in a single room if they choose to and choose not to have a roommate. And that does come with an upcharge, though, of $1,125 on top of what the normal room charge is. So that's something to consider as we get the semester going, and we start seeing people who maybe leave or transfer, or maybe someone gets sick and they have to drop out. Some beds might become available, and then we kind of mix and match from that point on. The last piece of room assignments for this slide is gender inclusive housing. If you are interested in gender inclusive housing, you would reach out to Josh Villarino. He's our coordinator of Residence Life, who I'm going to hand this next slide off to.
Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Just like Mr. Walker said, my name is Josh Villarino. I am the coordinator of Residence Life here on the Hill. I'm going to talk a little bit about room furnishing. So that lovely picture on the right side of the screen is a picture of one of our residence halls, and that's Sperry Hall. Every room comes with a desk. We provide our own desk, bed frame, bed mattress, chair, and a dresser. I will say, though, our beds are twin XL. So if any of your sons or daughters want to buy extra foaming, I see that a lot with a lot of students who come in just to make their bedding just a little bit more comfortable. You're more than welcome to do that. I've seen people bring gaming chairs and all the things of that sort. When it comes to decorating, though, we do ask that your students put, if they do plan on putting anything on the wall, to be really cautious with command strips. We recommend poster putties. Those are a little bit safer on our walls. That way, if at the end of the year, if they need it, when they take everything down, our walls don't get damaged, and we can also avoid the fine that comes with all of that. So that's a good picture of what your students can do when it comes to decorating their room. It's a nice space. Honestly, I remember being in there my freshman year, and it was a great opportunity for me to be able to not only meet my roommate and get to be in community with one another, with us both playing the same sport. But we still talk to each other to this day, and this is something that, it's going to be really good for your guys as students to have that sense of community, and even in the same living space. So it's a really cool opportunity for your students to be engaged with one another. So if we continue to the next slide, just a little bit more about furnishing. So bed risers are allowed. That picture over there is just your typical $8 Walmart bed riser. You can find that Amazon, Walmart here in Quincy, anything of that sort. Any custom bed risers must be approved by myself. We've seen people come in with their own built-in like wood um, bed risers. We just want to make sure that your student doesn't fall in the middle of the night and God forbid something happens to them. But we just want to make sure if you are going to bring anything custom that it gets approved by myself. Bed should never be loft with desks, dressers, or chairs. Again, just a big safety hazard. We don't want your son or daughter falling in the middle of the night and something happening to them. So, like I said, bed risers are totally allowed, like that picture on the right. And if anything that is custom, just gets run by me. So, building community in the halls. Here are a couple pictures of students in years past when it comes to community building. So we have resident assistants who are in the halls at all times, and they're in charge of building kind of the community inside of that hall. So if you can see, there's pictures of Sperry residents, attending bingo events together, which we hold every year, which is really fun. Throughout finals week, we have a study snack station. That was just an example of Stone Hall where the RAs were laying out snacks for our residents. The next picture is actually in McDonald, which is one of our upperclassmen halls. And we were just having pizza during our alcohol drug awareness event. So really cool opportunities for your students to get involved with the other students who live in their halls. Great way to interact with one another throughout the year. Like I said before, to build that sense of community with one another is super important, especially with somebody that they're going to be not only going to class with, playing a sport with, but essentially getting to live in the same walls as them. And it's really cool. Our RAs are also trained and have been really great in past years of doing things such as programming. Doing things like this shown on the presentation. RA meetings we do pretty often where we bring everybody down and our resident assistants basically kind of go over things that we need to go over, bring out some ideas that some of the students want to see in upcoming programming, campus events, letting them know when we have other campus events. We have a yearly festival called Hillstock where happens at the end of the year where alumni, students, all of that sort come together. We have a big festival on the hill. It's a great time, and we'll have plenty of cool opportunities for your students to be able to do things of that sort. So it's really cool time, and we got some cool things that we have going on almost every single week. So your students won't get bored. They'll have always something to do and be able to meet more people, meet people, upperclassmen, people the same class grade as them. So it's going to be a fun time for them.
Hey, Josh, I have a couple of questions.
Yes,
First question is, are there two desks, one for each student?
yes. So there are two desks for each student, and also two chairs as well.
Okay. And then the second question, are there dressers provided as well?
Yes, yes. So it was kind of hard to look in that picture, but in Sperry, behind where that the photographer was, there's actually two dressers there. So there's one for one resident, and then there's another for the other. And in Woodhall, they also have dressers with separated from each other, just like in Sperry, one for one resident, and then another for the other.
We had another question. It's asking the fridge height max. Our fridge max is, oh, I know this. Oh, one moment. We'll look this up for you. Josh, I'm going to have you go on to the next slide, and I'm going to
Yes.
look up that fridge max for
Yep.
that parent.
Sweet. Sounds good. Room changes is one of those things that is pretty common that we see as well. In the scenario where a student wants to request a room change, We have our own little social media platform that our students use called Wildcats Connect. And there's a little form on there where they can put on their information and request a room change. It goes straight to myself and Dean Walker. We can reach out to that student, kind of sit down and see what the request is and what the situation is. Um, in our housing contract, the actual word for what we pull from our book is stated on the slide. The college reserves the right to reassign students to a different room or building when it is deemed necessary by student life and or resident life staff. So obviously, we try to avoid having students get blindsided with, room changes and maybe another resident gets put into a hall that or a room that your student is living in. But we will do our best to also reach out and say, hey, this is kind of the scenario that's happening. That way, we're not blindsiding, our residents, and they get comfortable. Say, hey, what happened to this person, and all those things of that sort. So we do our best to just communicate really well with that. And we also have it's actually going to talk about it in our next slide, but we have resident assistants that are also there to be a part of that. If there's any situation or any issues that come up with roommates, which are very common. You got 18-year-olds who are coming in, incoming freshmen who are essentially living with someone that they've never, met in their life and having to study, sleep, listen to music together, eat lunch and all these sorts of things on a daily basis. But our resident assistants and our resident directors are all trained to help assist that and mediate if needed. And again, we try to avoid all those things. That's why we have our RAs that are ready to go at all times. So we have, obviously roommate expectations. So that's just common, talking to your student to your student about, their roommate, and also just communicating, living scenarios and all of those things. On ERES, your student should have done their housing application, and on a part of that housing application, they would have gotten to select certain preferences, and we highly encourage everybody to select those. And it basically goes into sleeping habits, studying habits, all of those sorts of things. To that way, when we do house our residents, that we can try and put people together with the same preferences to hopefully avoid roommate issues in the future. So we also have a roommate agreement. Excuse me, a roommate agreement where we have both of the residents sign off on something, and a mutual agreement upon the living standard in that room also as well. And we, like I said before, our RAs are the first in line to be in charge of all of those things. And whenever things get brought to anybody's attention, they're the first ones. We always tell our residents to go straight to your RAs first. They have great training, great expertise on all those sorts of things. So they're going to be taken really good care of, and they are in really good hands. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this off to Dean Walker, and he's going to talk about some of the what to bring and what not to brings.
Great. So probably the single most common question we get from students and parents are, what should I bring? What should I leave at home? So we kind of broke this down into the most common items that you should and shouldn't bring. So on the left, we got mini fridge. The question in the chat about fridge height max. We have a maximum height of 4.6 cubic feet. So as long as it's underneath that, they should be good to go. Other common things like microwave, laundry baskets. For those living in communal showers, which will be not living in showers, but halls with communal showers. Our freshman housing in Sperry and Wood, we recommend shower shoes because that is a shared space. Josh mentioned the bedding being twin XL. Small fans, hangers, a desktop computer you can bring, takes up quite a bit more space. So we do kind of recommend laptops or tablets in that regard. What not to bring. One of the biggest frequent flyers that we see people trying to bring are air fryers. And it's not that we don't want students to eat food. We have our dining services for that. But if we allowed air fryers and we've got several hundred people using them all at the same time, then we start looking at, how that impacts our electricity and things like that on campus. So it's easier for us just to not allow it. And then that's one less thing that we really have to worry about. Space heaters, Dr. Royal is going to talk a little bit later about our heating and cooling systems and how that works. So I won't steal her thunder on that one. Candles, we don't allow open flames for numerous reasons. And then the last one, and this is something that's become a little bit bigger of a problem over the last couple of years, are students bringing LED lights. And what ends up happening is students will either leave the LED lights up, which unfortunately leads to a charge at the end of the semester, at the end of the school year. But then also, if they don't want to leave them up, then they will rip those off and they start taking a bunch of paint with them. And so, one of the things that we're really going to work with our RAs and RDs on is, as they're helping your kids move in, like really hammer home the fact that we don't want to see LED lights up on the wall. And the last thing anybody wants is to get assessed a fine or a fee for something that maybe they didn't know was a fine or that they weren't sure about. But in this case, we're trying to be as upfront as possible.
So there is a question in the chat. Can each of the roommates bring a mini fridge? Per our handbook, we do ask that there be one mini fridge per room. Is that something that we necessarily hardcore enforce? In full disclosure, no. However, it can greatly impact our power source. But most importantly, there's not a ton of room in the rooms. So taking up the space with 2 refrigerators in there, can cause problems. So.
Right. Some people say small rooms. I prefer intimate as the language for that.
Cozy.
And Dr.
Cozy.
Royal's spot on. If everyone brings their own fridge, their own TV, their own microwave, you're going to run out of room pretty fast. So one of the great things about E-Res is that once you pick a room and that room gets populated with a roommate, your son or daughter should receive an email with their contact information, their Instagram, their Twitter, their phone number, if they chose to share that. And so you can start communicating with your roommate now and be like, hey, I'll bring the microwave and the fan if you want to bring the fridge. So that way there's no surprises when we get on campus in August.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you hear us mention fines or damages, what we don't want to see happen is the picture on the right, 211 Weldon. And this was no joke. This was how a room was left at the end of May this past spring semester. And so if we're just taking this by itself, we see, personal items that are left over, furniture that was not left in the shape that it was when they moved in. There was garbage on the floor. And so what happens in a scenario like that is myself, Josh, our RDs, our RAs, when we check students out in the spring, we take a file, we take a picture, we write down everything that's listed, which could all potentially be a fine that gets placed on your student's account. And this particular room, I believe the final charges for all this was up towards right around $1,200. And so that's a big number. And we want to avoid that just as much as you want your own kids to avoid that. And the easiest way for them to do that is to fill out their room condition report. You'll hear your son or daughter, the kids on campus, your RAs, they'll refer to it as the RCR. They'll fill that out on E-Res when they move in. And we put a small picture there just to kind of give you an idea. I'm not going to give you all the broad strokes on how to fill that out. They'll do that when they move in. But essentially, this is kind of your kind of get out of jail free card, where if you walk in your room and there's some paint chipped over here, or maybe a blind has a crack in it, or a dresser drawer is missing a door handle, who knows? All sorts of these things are common. They can happen. But we have our students, when they move in, fill out their room condition report and list everything that they might not be sure about, so that at the end of the year, when we go in to check them out and assess the room, we pull up that RCR and it shows the broken blind, it shows the missing dresser door handle. Then we know, okay, this person here isn't going to get that fine. They identified it. when they moved in. So it's not like they're going to be charged that fee. So the importance of filling out that RCR upon move-in is critical for the students, for you, the parents too. The last thing we want is to assign fines for students that didn't do anything wrong. So make sure we get that RCR filled out when you move in.
All right. One of the questions that popped up in the chat, and I did answer it in the chat, but I want to make certain that just in case anybody who's watching the recording gets the question answered, is how do you access eResLife? The students access eResLife by logging into My Culver, then clicking on Campus Life, and then Residence Life. That's how they access eResLife. So the next thing we want to make certain that you all are aware of, and this is in the housing contract that the student signs. They sign that at check-in, is that the college is not responsible for the loss or damage to any personal property that's in the student's, in the student's room. So we recommend that your student does cover their property, whether it's through the parent's homeowner's insurance. So parents, I would encourage you to take a look at your homeowners and see if it does in fact cover your students' items in their residence hall, or to purchase renter's insurance. Renter's insurance is extremely inexpensive. You can usually get it for, $10 or $20, I think, a month for renter's insurance. But it is something that I do like to make certain that students and parents know, is that, it's no different than renting an apartment. If our building burns down, the college is only responsible for the structure of the building, not for the contents. So we want to make certain that your students' items are protected. So please make certain that you do check out your own policies that you already have, or certainly purchase your own policies so your personal items are protected. Let me see, we have a question. Okay. All righty. All right, Brian, you want to walk them through move-in dates?
Absolutely. And so I put in the chat for anyone who is watching the recording of this. If you are finding you're having problems with eResLife, the login or the application, reach out to myself or Josh Villarino, and we would be happy to help you out. And in terms of move-in dates, our very first move-in date is just a little over a month away, and that's for our Catalyst, our cheer team, our men's and women's cross country, dining student workers, football, men's, women's soccer, and women's volleyball. So that's essentially our fall athlete move-in, our Catalyst students, and our dining student workers. They're the ones who come on Friday the 8th. The next week, Thursday the 14th, we'll have marching band and our Blessing Riemann nursing students. On Thursday, the next week, all other incoming freshmen and transfer students, along with our commuter students as well. And then Sunday, the 24th, all of our students should be moving back on campus and be ready to go because classes will start Monday, August 25th. We hit the ground running, especially for the incoming freshmen who are maybe more accustomed to having a Monday through Friday class schedule. They have the same class every morning. It'll be a little bit of a culture shock on that Monday, the 25th, when maybe they only have 2 classes. And they might be a little caught off guard by that, but it only takes a week or so and they will be well adjusted to the college schedule.
I just wanted to jump in here because I realized, and I'm going to throw into the chat, if anybody would like to request to move in outside of their scheduled move-in date, we do have a form that students can fill out to request to move in outside of their scheduled date. The student is who submits that. So this information was in the parent newsletter that went out last night, but I'll put that in the chat as well. And we will be sending this information out to all students as well.
Okay, so what can you really expect on check-in day? I think we do have a set agenda. Check-in students, they'll arrive at the field house. We will be swarmed with move-in volunteers, from our Wildcat welcome leaders to our RAs to our resident directors, our student life staff. We will be there. It'll be all hands on deck, trying to make that transition as smooth as possible and to get you into your rooms without or with the least amount of headaches. One of the questions that comes up is parking. Where are we going to have parking? It's not the biggest parking lot at the field house and the Performing Arts Center. So if you find yourself having to park down at the Mabee Center, or you park over by the Crown Center or by Henderson Hall, no worries. We're not going to make you walk all over campus carrying big boxes of stuff. We have volunteers that will be shuttling individuals in golf carts to and from throughout the course of the day, so that we can make that as pleasant of an experience as possible. In terms of reporting concerns, I touched briefly not that long ago on the RCRs, room condition reports. If something isn't right in the room, if you have questions about something in the room, please do not hesitate to ask any one of our number of volunteers who will be on site, and we will address whatever concerns you might have right there. So we ask, don't worry about voicing a concern. The last thing we want is mom or dad to be driving home, halfway through a 6-hour drive to be concerned about something they saw in the room but didn't mention. We want to empower those individuals, empower you, the students, the parents, to be vocal and let us know if there's something that you need. And then, how long do you stay? So on move-in day, new student move-in day on August 21st, we have what's called our matriculation ceremony, where our new students get led out of the Performing Arts Center with our traditional bagpipe players and the president and our faculty. They'll sign a covenant. It's a pretty prestigious ceremony that we do every year, and we really invite the parents to stick around. I know some of you might be coming from farther away, which is understandable, but it's always a treat to see how much the parents enjoy that aspect of the move-in. So we don't want you to look at it as just unpacking and putting clothes and microwaves away. It really is a little bit more of an immersive experience, not just for the students but for the parents as well. The question in the chat: what time is matriculation? That starts around 3:30, I believe. They'll gather in the Performing Arts Center. There's a couple of different short speeches, and then you'll notice you'll hear the bagpiper start kicking in from outside, and you just start to feel the excitement buzz from there.
We did have a couple of questions about what time move-in is. We will be sending that information out probably next week. We actually are meeting tomorrow with various coaches and such for fall athletes to determine when their athletes need to be here for that August 8th move-in. And so we hope to have that information out to you by next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll have that to you shortly.
And even if you have a son or daughter that is a fall athlete and you're moving on the 8th, that matriculation ceremony, all that still applies. That is something that they are required to go to. If you live close enough and you drop your son or daughter off on the 8th and you want to come back to see it, you are more than welcome to come back and witness all those kind of move-in traditions that we have set up for that opening weekend.
Yeah, but that kind of transitions into our next slide, which does talk about Wildcat Welcome. Wildcat Welcome is our welcome weekend where we really intensively prepare students for their time here at Culver. We do require students to be at particular activities. So we need for your students to be here beginning on Thursday, August 21st. So please don't plan family vacations for that time. Please don't say, oh, well, it would be more convenient for, my child to move in on Saturday. They need to be here. They meet so many people starting on Thursday, including their academic advisors, their faculty. They meet success coaches, they meet fellow students, and by missing all of that, they kind of already start off behind the game. And we don't want to do anything to start them off behind the game, right? So do everything you can to make certain that they are here on Thursday, August the 21st. And we will do everything that we can to get them set up and ready for success. We also want our commuter students to participate in all the activities as well as our transfer students. Yep, we know that transfer students have already been somewhere else, but they have not been at Culver-Stockton College. And so we want to make certain that our transfer students are armed with resources, and we will have specific sessions for them as well. We will have a schedule of activities for Wildcat Welcome up on the website and out ready for students very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. We will have more information on that as well. So let's see. So I had a question. Is there any conflict between Catalyst classes and Wildcat Welcome activities? Absolutely not. I actually oversee the Catalyst program too, so we make certain that there is no conflict between the two. In fact, we will end Catalyst before the first Wildcat Welcome activity begins. So there will be absolutely no conflicts between the two. All right, so I'll turn this over to Josh, who's going to talk about laundry.
Awesome. So this is another question that comes up pretty often when it comes to living inside of the residence halls, and something that I do take full pride in is that our laundry is 100% free. No need to bring quarters. No need to bring any of that. You can just go down there. Your student can go down there with their load of laundry into our laundry room, find multiple laundry machines. Use one. You can put something that I always tell residents to do is if they don't want to stay in there and wait on their laundry, they can just set a timer on their phone, go back upstairs, continue studying. Or if they want to stay and study down there in the laundry room and just wait for their laundry, they're more than welcome to do that as well. And there are machines in each building, in each residence hall. So they wouldn't have to worry about, oh, shoot, hey, this is there's not enough machines. We got you covered. We got them all sorted out, ready to go. So free, 100% free and all that. And it's a great deal.
All right, so the temperature in the halls. So this is something I always like to just put on parents and students' radar. Our residence halls are not like your home. Students don't have the luxury of just flipping the AC on when it gets hot and flipping the heat on when it gets cold. Our buildings run on what's called a double boiler system. So we are heating and cooling water to heat and cool our building. So it takes 2 days to heat and cool a building. Well, if you are familiar with the Midwest, our temperatures vary sometimes tremendously. I am still, I think, recovering, and Josh will remember this because he was a student when this happened. But October of 2023, when in 1 week it went from 30 degrees to 80 degrees in 1 week. And it was pretty warm in the residence halls. And so one thing that we just want our students and our parents to know is that we do the best that we can with the temperatures in the halls. But it's not going to be perfect always, especially during those, months coming off the summer, like October, for example. I hate October and I hate April. Those are my two least favorite months because of the volatility of the temperature. But we certainly do our best to make very strategic decisions of when to turn the AC on in the spring and when to turn, the AC off in the fall. And so that's all we want to do is just put that on your radar. I have these two faces here because we know we're never going to make everybody happy. Inevitably, when everybody's hot, there's going to be, somebody that's going to be too cold. It just is what it is. That's why we encourage people, something else to put on your list, bring a fan. Fans are always, something that can help. But it's just something to prepare your student for. There are still colleges out there that don't have air conditioning at all in their halls. And so, it could be worse. And guess what? There may be times when just like in our own homes, we might have air condition that goes down. We cannot control that, but we will always try and be very transparent with students and have a plan in place when those situations happen to inform students about what to do in those situations and to make certain they're as comfortable as possible. So please just let your students know that it's going to be a little different than being at home where we can, flip the AC on if it's suddenly very warm and flip it off when it gets cold. It's just going to be a new living environment. And with that, sometimes it's unfortunately not going to be as comfortable as they may like it, unfortunately. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to talk to you about mail.
All right. It's also fairly common for parents, relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it, to want to send their relative something in the mail. We do have a mail room that has operating hours that get posted. Anytime those hours change, we let the students know. If you are sending a package, a care package of a couple different items, that box will arrive. It gets logged into the system, and then then the student gets identified. One thing that we ask is if you order something from Amazon and have it shipped from Amazon, just because like the student gets the text or you get the text that says, hey, your package has arrived, that doesn't mean that we have it in the system yet. It might take an hour or two, might get it the next day. So just if you get that notification, great. Just know that your son or daughter is going to get that package in the very, very near future. If you're sending a package, you just list your student's name at the top. Our address is Culver-Stockton College, 1 College Hill, Canton, Missouri, 63435. And if you're sending like a piece of mail, a letter, a birthday card, maybe same thing. Put the name, Culver-Stockton College, and the one difference is that MSC number. That's the child's mailbox number. So once they move in and they get their mailbox key, they'll be notified of what their mailbox number is. And then if you want to send mail, all you have to do is include that mailbox number. So when it arrives at our mail room, we can sort it, put it in the mailbox, and the students can come by and check that mailbox at any point during operating hours. Parking. One of the things that we get a lot of questions about is parking for students. If you know that your son or daughter is going to be bringing a car to campus, they have to get it registered on My Culver. It's underneath the Campus Life tab. There's a small drop-down menu that shows that it has a tab, register your vehicle. It'll be the make, model, and license plate number, I believe. And it's an $85 charge. And then when you show up on move-in day, if you've done this ahead of time, they will hand you a physical parking permit that you can hang in your rearview mirror, and there shouldn't be any problems unless you're parking in the wrong spot. So each of those tags will come with a specific residence hall, and you can park at that residence hall without issue for the duration of the school year. But what we don't want is if we have students who have parking passes for Woodhall to then drive over to Weldon and park their car there, because then they're taking away a spot from a potential Weldon resident. So whichever resident hall you're staying in, that'll be the hall that you get that parking pass for. Places like the Maybe Center, we don't have parking permits for that location. So if you do have a far drive, if the walk is kind of far, the weather's not great, and you want to go work out, go ahead. You can drive and park down there all you want, but there's no guarantee that spot at your residence hall that you're leaving is going to be available when you're done with your workout. If you are caught in violation of parking in the wrong place, you do start to accrue parking fines, and those can get added up really quick. And once you start accruing to a certain amount, then you might find yourself in my office talking about potential discipline related to the numerous parking infractions that you've accumulated. So as long as the students get that vehicle registered, you can park it in that parking lot, and we won't have any issues. If you have questions, come down to Student Life, come down to Campus Safety. We will be more than happy to show you on a map the places that you're allowed to park without issue. And before I forget, last thing on parking, those permits have to be renewed every year. So every year coming into school, so you'll be there, new student check-in this year on August 21st. Coming back next year, if you're not a fall athlete, you'll come back on that Sunday before classes start. You'll have to renew that parking permit for that year.
Sweet. So if there's something that your student recognizes and sees in their room, some maybe a desk was damaged, they're missing a chair, their bed, the frame is, acting all wonky, they can submit what's called a work order, and it's located in my Culver. Something that our students also get kind of confused on, they forget that they can also submit the order, and their RA can also submit it. So say, hey, your student calls in the RA and they say, hey, I realized my desk had this big, the drawer is not coming in and out. I left my schoolwork in there, like I can't get it out. If the student goes, brings their RA into the situation, their RA can also submit it, or if they choose to submit it themselves, they can also do that. And usually takes a couple days for facilities to come by and get everything situated and figured out. So easy to submit. It's just a little link in my Culver where they can fill out, location where it's at, what's going on with the item that is in question, and we can get everything sorted out.
Awesome. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk to you about accommodations in housing. So if a student needs to request accommodations, whether it be they need an accommodation for a single room, or maybe they would like to request an accommodation for an emotional support animal, that process actually starts with our coordinator for accessibility. Her name's Casey Lovelace Hall. Now, we say that our applications are due by March 1st, but that's not a hard deadline. That's really a hard deadline for our returning students. But for new students, that process is still going on. So if you are wanting to have an emotional support animal on campus, or are wanting to request a single room in housing due to some kind of disability, you can shoot an email to accommodations@culver.edu. Or you can go on the Culver website and you can just type accommodations into the search bar, and that will link you to, we do have our forms online as well. You'll just need to have, you do have to submit our paperwork in order to be considered for an accommodation. You can't just have your doctor submit a letter. The doctor must submit our paperwork because there is specific information that we must know. Now, one thing I will say about emotional support animals, do not bring your pet without having that emotional support animal approved first. If you do bring the pet without it being approved by us first, not only is that going to put you in a strange spot where you're going to then have to find somewhere else to take the animal, you do face a significant fine, and it's just not a great spot for anybody. So please make certain that you do get that pet approved before you do bring that. If you do get approved for an emotional support animal, we have 2 halls on campus that you're approved to live in. You can live in either Sperry Hall or Weldon Hall with that pet. And please remember that emotional support animals are not service animals. So those emotional support animals may only remain in your residence. They may not travel around campus with you. They may not travel to other residence halls. They may only remain in your hall and be taken outside to use the restroom, and then be taken back into your room. But again, if you have any questions about accommodations, you can shoot an email to Casey Lovelace Hall at accommodations@culver.edu, and she'll be more than happy to walk you through our process and get you taken care of.
Excellent. So when it comes to safety, we do train our RAs. Those are our resident assistants. They come in before our students arrive and go through a week of pretty high intense training so we can prepare them as best as possible to help service your sons and daughters. Above the RAs, we have our RDs, our resident directors. They are typically graduate students or maybe assistant coaches with one of our sports teams. They live on campus, and not only are they there to help support the RAs, to support our student life team, but they also work hand in hand with campus safety. So we kind of have a multi-layered approach to keeping this campus as safe as possible. And we strongly encourage the students that if something seems amiss, if they think something's wrong, uh, do not hesitate to reach out. We have RDs and RAs that are on call every evening. Our campus safety, we'll have at least one campus safety officer on campus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. So we really do. We put a lot of pride in our campus safety. And we also really encourage our students that even if something doesn't feel right, if you're not even 100% sure, that you reach out and let somebody know. With that in mind, the college, we do reserve the right to enter rooms. We'll do that with an announcement. Like if there's an issue on an all-female floor, before a male officer or myself even steps on that floor, we make our presence known. We'll say campus safety, men on the floor. We let everybody know that we're going to be there. If we have to enter the room, we'll knock on that room. We'll announce ourselves. The last thing we want to do is just go barging in, coming in hot if there's nothing even going on that we need to see. But sometimes someone maybe picks up a noxious odor and they think that someone next door, there might be something going on. They'll call us. We'll go investigate. And if we feel that we need to enter, we'll knock on the door and announce ourselves, and then we'll enter. It's also happened in the past where students, like, we might go to a room, and if no one's home and no one's at home in that resident, we can still enter to observe the premises just to make sure that no one's health and safety is at risk. Keys. Students are issued a room key and a mailbox key when they come to check in. That room key, they get one of it, and if they lose it, it's really expensive, as you can see right there, $100. The mail room key, not as expensive, but it's $15. And what's important here is that when we check students out, they have to return their keys. So if they don't have it upon checkout, we're going to put that charge on their account. Now, let's say they get home for summer break and they realize, oh, my keys are in my hoodie pocket. I didn't realize that. There's a window after checkout where students can mail those keys back to us on campus. If they live close enough, they can drive them back. But I really strongly encourage you to get those keys back on campus as soon as possible, because we have to start recoring the rooms and changing those keys. I had a student yesterday that emailed, said, I'm putting the keys in the mail now. And I said, don't worry about that, because the lock had already been changed. So even if we got that key back, it's not going to be any good. So we're going to have to reprint a new key, so that charge is going to be there anyways. We know that kids will bring them home, but if you notice when you get home that you have it, get it back to us as soon as possible. And we'll make sure we announce that deadline for when you have to get keys in the mail to us. Break housing. There are situations where students need to stay on campus over break. If you're commuting from far away and you might not have the means to get home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or spring break, you can stay on campus. We'll have forms that will be posted on Wildcats Connect, and they just submit when they need to stay in housing. And there's a small fee of $25 a night, which is still cheaper than the best Airbnbs and hotels in the tri-states. $25, you can stay for the night. It doesn't have to be the entire break. If your flight home is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, you can stay for those 2 nights, and we can get you out of there. We also offer shuttle service. Not complimentary shuttles, but for a small fee, we can get you from campus in Canton. We can get you to Quincy. We have a Amtrak train that runs twice a day to Chicago. We have a bus service in Quincy that goes from Quincy down to St. Louis. And we also have a regional airport in Quincy, which can fly you to Chicago and St. Louis multiple times throughout the day. So those are just a couple of different options in the event that you need transportation home. We might not be able to drive you to St. Louis to get to Lambert to fly home, but we can get you to Quincy, which can get you to St. Louis pretty easy.
And I included in the chat a link to the shuttle form for move-ins. And then in the parent newsletter, I also included some tips on how you could get to Canton from St. Louis and other surrounding areas. That's in there. So just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, and then I mentioned a little bit about this at the start when I talked about ERES room draw. That happens early in the spring, and we will start sending information out about that. Once we get back from Christmas break, we get settled into the semester, we start looking at what dates that's going to open. Couple things: you have to have your bill paid and be registered for classes. So we don't give rooms to people if they're not sure if they're coming back in the fall. So make sure you're registered for classes, you have any outstanding bills or holds or charges paid, and then you get assigned a lottery number in a drawing, and that's based on your GPA and your class level. So if you're doing really well in school, you got really good grades, you're here for a couple of semesters, you start to notice you move up quite a bit in that room draw lottery, which gives you kind of first dibs on the best resident halls and best suites and accommodations on campus. If you're stuck at the bottom or you miss room draw, no worries. We can still help you get into a room. And while you're looking for rooms and you're filling out that application, you can make your own roommate groups and your own roommate kind of, the one or two people that you might really want to room with. So all it takes is one person in that group to select a room, and if there's enough beds, that whole group will get populated into that room. So it's a pretty efficient, it's a pretty seamless system that we're using now. But that information comes out, and that process won't start to the spring.
I did get a question if we provide storage for students over the summer. Unfortunately, we do not. Students do take their items home over the summer. Next thing that I want to quickly go through is just dining on campus. All residential students are required to have a meal plan. These are different meal plan options. You can find all of these on the Culver website. Students do, though, currently, they can still right now go out and they can change their meal plans. They have through the end of the second week of classes to change their meal plan. They do that in My Culver. They just do that under the Campus Life menu by clicking on Campus Life and then meal plan. We do have 3 different options for students to dine on campus. We have our main dining hall that provides students with all you can eat options. That's in the upper level of Gladys Crown. We have what's called the CP, the Cat's Paws. That offers more late. It goes from 11 to 11, 7 days a week. That's more of your kind of fast food to go kinds of options. And then we have the lab, which is over in our library, which has more of a coffee shop, wraps and sandwiches kinds of feel. As you can see, our hours are, we've got dining options 7 days a week, a variety of hours. We haven't set our dining hours yet for next year, but as you can see, students do have a wide variety of hours. And we do always work with our coaches to make certain that we are providing options. Our director of dining services, Lindsay Dover, she works very close with coaches. If there's a practice running late, they'll let her know. She'll keep an area open to make certain that we do get our students fed. If a student has any dietary restrictions, we always encourage them to contact our director of dining, Lindsay Dover, to let her know so she can see if she can accommodate that student's restrictions. But if a student has a serious restriction or a serious food allergy, or they have a religious restriction and they believe that they might need to be exempted from our meal plan, they can reach out to me and I will send the paperwork to them that they can have their medical professional or clergy fill out. And then we will review that for an exemption. All right, so we have reached the end of our information for tonight on living and dining on campus. Just wanted to let you know that we do have a number of recorded sessions already posted for you if you do want to go out and take a look at them. And we will have this session posted. Like I said, you never know, it might be up there tomorrow, might be next week, but it will be there. And then coming soon, we'll have 2 more sessions added within the next month or so. Some more information out there about, some academic, like what it's like in the classroom at the college level, and then information for commuter student success. Josh is right. Question was, what's the most common meal plan? The most common meal plan is meal plan A. But it's really up to the individual students. Some students like to try it out for a little bit. That's why we let students have the first couple weeks of class to test it out and to see how many meals they're going to eat during a week. I will say though, something I do need to point out is that their meal plans do reset at the end of the semester. So they will, if they changed their meal plan for the fall semester, they will have to change it again for the spring semester. Okay, says, do we know when housing and meal plans will be added to our bill? Right now, it only shows tuition and the fee. Housing and meal plans should be on the bill. So if you're not seeing that on the bill, Brian, what are we telling people to do if they're not seeing housing and meals on their bill?
If it's not showing up, the first kind of line of defense for that is Kaylee McVeigh in student billing, and then sometimes there's some crossed wires between ERES and our billing software. Usually we can get that resolved pretty quickly, but Kaylee McVeigh in student billing is the initial contact person if there's something that looks amiss on your bill.
Okay, and I threw their contact information
Perfect.
in the chat. Student billing at culver.edu, or you can call 573-288-6492. Yes, I know that by heart. I have to share that a lot with people. All right. Are there any other questions for us this evening? Well, I did also want to put up here our contact information. Like I said, I am your liaison. So anytime you have questions, you don't know where to begin, please certainly reach out to me and let me know what I can do to help. I am always here. There is no question that's silly. I'm always here to help. Also tell your students that I am their advocate. I'm their voice. So if they don't know where to begin, send them my way. And we cannot wait to have you and your students here on campus. It will be here before we know it. So again, thank you so very much for joining us this evening. Have a great rest of your night, friends. Good night.